The Big Picture of Drug and Alcohol-Induced Driving, Part 1. Unfathomable numbers of lives are lost every year in the United States as a result of drug and alcohol-impaired driving. At least 10,497 fatalities from alcohol-impaired driving accidents are reported to have occurred in 2016. This startling number represents 28% of all traffic fatalities in that year. Alcohol-impaired driving was a factor in a frightening 45% of road fatalities nationwide, although it was as low as 19% in Utah, Montana and North Dakota. One or more of the drivers engaged in the collision must have a blood alcohol level of 0.08% or more, which is over the legal limit, in order for it to be considered an alcohol-impaired incident. We do know that a blood alcohol content, BAC, of 0.08% can result in considerable response, cognition, and motor skill impairment, even if it is not always simple to determine the exact amount to which alcohol impairment contributed to these incidents and the fatalities that resulted from them. If alcohol had not been a factor, it's likely that many of these deaths could have been prevented. Although it is difficult to quantify, drug driving is believed to be a contributing factor in 16% of all traffic accidents. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, released the findings of a roadside study conducted in 2015 to determine how drug impairment influenced a driver's chance of being in an accident. According to their research, compared to a sober driver, a driver who has used an illicit, non-medical, drug has a 21% higher collision risk. A driver who has used marijuana has a 25% higher collision risk. Sedative-impaired drivers had a 30% higher collision risk. The research also showed that using opiate pain relievers, like morphine or oxycodone, significantly raised a driver's chance of a collision. They also found that driving when impaired by both drugs and alcohol increased the risk of collision by 5 times. Drug and alcohol impairment not only significantly raises your risk of being in a collision, but also increases your risk of dying in one. A person involved in an accident while driving while intoxicated is more than 10 times more likely to die than a person involved in an accident while not driving while intoxicated, according to statistics gathered by the Texas Department of Transportation in 2013. Too many drivers think that their ability to drive is constant and that using drugs or alcohol won't have any negative effects on it. Unfortunately, even slight alterations in mood, physical coordination, cognition, eyesight, and perception can result in fatal errors on the road. In order to help drug and alcohol-impaired drivers recognize when they are no longer able to drive, the NHTSA developed a national campaign called If You Feel Different, You Drive Different in response to the growing epidemic of impaired driving. Although traffic regulations and fines are powerful tools in the campaign against drunk driving, self-awareness is the secret to saving lives. The background of drunk driving. Early in the 20th century, when automobile production scaled up and the number of vehicles on the road significantly rose, the issue of drunk driving came to light. When New York passed a law stating that no drunk person shall operate a motor vehicle, it became the first state to criminalize driving while under the influence of alcohol. It was a positive step, and other states quickly followed suit. Unfortunately, the early alcohol regulations did not identify the level of intoxication that constituted a criminal offense. It was also highly challenging for law enforcement to enforce the legislation because they had to rely on their own observations to establish whether a driver was under the influence of alcohol.